All right, everybody, no fancy editing or anything like that. We're just going to do a quick and easy video so I can get this up today. And the way we're going to do it is first I'm going to talk about the news and what I've heard, kind of get you the data, and then afterwards I will tell you when I'm going to go into my opinion side of this so that you can turn it off if all you care about is the news and data. But before you do, please subscribe and like the channel so that the next time I do one of these videos you can watch it until I get to the opinion part, and then you can turn it off again. Anyway, big surprise, sources have told me that the LCS team owners have voted to remove the requirements that cause LCS teams to maintain an academy team for next year. Supposedly this was talked about earlier this week in a meeting between some of the team staff and some of the Riot staff. So anyway, this follows, basically, you may remember it was reported by Spanish teenage esports media superstar Bloop over at .esports that LEC voted to do something very similar to this earlier this year, but of course very different circumstances because of how LEC's path to pro works versus the LCS. Anyway, it also sounds like, in addition to trying to remove the requirement that you field an academy team, the LCS teams are also looking to try to make it so that you no longer have to have these academy teams in Los Angeles so that they can go on stage. Instead, they want to be able to make it so that they're all remote, which would obviously be a means of cost cutting. So I don't know if that would mean that we'd ever see them on play on stage underneath this, or maybe they'd only do it for finals. I don't know. It's unclear, by the way, at this time, if this is something that Riot is going to go forward with, because I guess the players the teams are pushing for this, but we're not sure yet, I guess, if Riot has agreed to it. But that's the conversation that's happening behind the scenes. Now, I did ask Commissioner Greeley about this during the LCS press conference a couple weeks ago, or rather, I pre-submitted the question to his team 4 days in advance, and I guess he opted not to answer it because his PR people did not read him the question from the self-selected things during the interview that they were conducting. So I guess that's how transparent Riot wants to be on the stuff these days. Anyway, what is really cool is I did reach out to the New Players Association, and they did provide me a statement, which is always great to see. So I'll go ahead and put it up on screen now, and I will read it here as well. The LCS Players Association is in active talks with Riot, team owners, and our players about all systemic changes being discussed in the 2022 season. Riot has affirmed that the PA will have an active and meaningful voice in shaping those changes. Recent reports and our own conversations with team owners and operators have indicated that at least some teams will pursue measures that reduce or remove costs associated with the academy system. Some teams have specifically proposed making academy optional for LCS teams. Optional academy will do nothing to benefit the future of the LCS or its players, and only excuses teams from their financial responsibility to protect the future of the LCS. We believe academy and the broader commitment to better developing homegrown talent within North America are critical to the LCS's sustainable success. All right, so we're now officially out of the news stuff, and we're going to get into my analysis, so feel free to click away accordingly. But maybe you want to stick around. So I have mixed feelings on all this stuff because this year in particular, it felt like a lot of the teams were kind of coming out of the woodwork after last year's disappointing Worlds, one of many, to talk about how much they care about developing NA talent. And some of them spun up different programs and have hired people. So it just feels like this flies in the face of a lot of that. I get that there are 10 different teams, and so some feel differently, but when you hear that the majority of them voted, I'm not even sure if it's just like 6 voted, like I think there's a significant amount of the LCS team owners that feel this way. So that's pretty disappointing. So here's my suggestion. In response to this video, why don't we have all these team owners who are willing to beat their chest so much at the start of the year about how much they care about developing talent and building all this stuff? Why don't they come out and commit in 2022? Let's let everybody know, hey, we still care about that. We're not going to remove any of our teams, and we're going to keep our development program running great. I'd love to hear that, and it would actually get a lot of the blurriness out of the way, as it were. Now, I do think some teams, by the way, just to be aware of this, might maintain their amateur team, right? Because the costs of running an amateur team significantly less than academy, even if they do switch over to this like remote thing. I think it's just a lot easier to do that. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see is that some teams try to message this as like, hey, listen, we realize that we can develop talent all over and we don't all need to be in the same place. And so we think that we are going to continue to commit to developing talent and we will have a team next year, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, kind of quietly getting rid of the academy team and making it perhaps only their amateur team or 2 amateur teams, something that is a less of a commitment, resources and money wise. So just keep an eye out for that in the way that they message this stuff, because it's probably the PR friendly way of messaging it. Anyway, part of the reason I have mixed feelings on this is that the sad thing is that I know that throughout all these years since franchising, some teams have just run the academy teams as okay, well, I'm required to do this. I'll check the box. I'll just find some players and like hopefully one of them does okay, and then I can sell them to another team owner for a while or have them be a backup or something. So, it's kind of in question where like if you're forcing team owners to do this, how much effort are they gonna be putting into it anyway? But regardless, it's hard to figure out a way in which this actually helps make Path to Pro better. In my mind, like anytime you're going to pull money and resources out of it, anytime you're not going to have all your players in the same place and giving them on stage time, it feels like you're inherently creating a worse situation. So I don't know. I'm also very curious to see how the Players Association navigates this, because this is, I think, their first big test. It's also going to be interesting to see how they negotiate it, because there's an interesting thing here where you could see them basically saying like, all right, keep academy. Everybody should have to have that. But we want some of these teams to go, we're okay with them going remote if you can provide these other protections. Or, one big thing that people talk about is like academy prison or contract jail or whatever. So like ways for players to get out of academy easier. I think there are some ways in which perhaps Riot and the Players Association and the owners can come to terms on something that is a little bit more agreeable for everyone than the current system that we have. But if the team owners strictly just want to be like, I don't want to hold an academy team as part of my organization and I want to save all this money and like I don't want to commit to anything else, I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Anyway, that's the news. We'll see how it goes. And I'm curious what all of you think about this, because I definitely feel as though it's odd. We had so much conversation about developing NA talent this year, and now this. So feel free to comment on this video or on wherever you're reading it. I don't know. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Alienware for sponsoring this video. They're fantastic. Stick around for the outro. Just do it. And then comment that you did, so that I know that you did. Oh my gosh. Summer split. You know what that means? It's summer. And you might be thinking to yourself, time to go outside and enjoy the sun. Enjoy the wilderness. Go climb a mountain. No. That stuff is dangerous. You know what's safe? Alienware computers. And playing games on them. Including, by the way, their new X Series line of notebooks, which you can go check out at alienware.com/Travis. There's a link in the description below. Be safe. Play video games. It's the way to live. That's how I live. And I'm still alive, so clearly it's working.